Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO retrospective podcast, where we talk about all things Panasonic 3DO, the company, console, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is Threk. How are you doing, Threk?
I'm getting better. I assume the audience can hear. I still sound a bit congested. Maybe I'm not too congested. It's just I'm coughing a lot, so my voice is probably a bit scratched from that. But I've slowly been getting back my energy, so I'm much more up. And I'm not like pounding the cold medicine trying to find something that works. I don't know if other people do that, but for me, whenever I get a cold, I'm like, oh, let me try this and this and this and this and mix stuff together, which I probably shouldn't be doing, but I do it anyways. So I'm getting there, drinking a lot of water, trying to get as much rest as I can, and of course playing the odd video game or two. But how are you, Bill?
I am good. I've been having one of those weeks where I'm just like, I just want it to be over because I'm so tired. But that's part of being an adult. So,
Yep,
other
how
than
it
that,
works.
yeah,
You just pine for the weekend, don't you?
pretty much. It's one of those like daily things. Me and Alex are heading to a convention this weekend, so that should be pretty fun.
That's good.
I doubt there's gonna be a lot of game hunting because this is more of a comic pop culture convention than a full out gaming one. But I might, you never know, I might find something weird.
There's going to be somebody there selling games.
There's always a vendor, but it's always like the odd. It's either like everything they have is I already own it, or the things that are good are way too expensive.
Yeah, like a guy's like, here's my entire Atari Jaguar collection. It's like nobody wants that, dude.
Jaguar games are surprisingly hard to find at a convention, unless it's like a full on gaming convention.
Yeah.
Like 3DO games are basically impossible. Like at the last gaming convention I went to like 12 booths and asked for 3DO games, and the response was, "Oh, we didn't bring them because we didn't think anyone wanted them." And I was just like, "Great."
You should be like, well, do it next time because I will be here, I promise. And then you don't show up.
Yeah. Well, I will be at that convention next year as well, or this
So
year as well. But
yeah, the retro store by me that I'm starting to frequent more again. They have a boxed Jaguar in the box, and I'm not going to tell you the price of it. It's ridiculous. And they had some like boxed Jaguar games. I think they had the boxed copy of NBA Jam, and it was like $110. And I'm like, fuck out of here with that. They did have a nice conditioned long box of the 3DO game. I think it's called Neurodancer, and I think they went like $400 for it. And no. And then I looked at, they had a couple other games, but it was nothing. It was stuff we've either covered or stuff that I really just wasn't interested in, or the price wasn't good. So that's kind of the issue with 3DO stuff. But they're good for having Xbox games. So
yeah,
still working through that.
I mean, for me, like
I haven't played my OG Xbox in a while. I need to get on that.
Same. I gotta both break out my 360 and play a little bit on that.
My 360 is giving me issues. It's like recently I've been like turning it on, and then it's giving me a red light, and then it gives me an error code, and the error code is E79. I Google it, and it has something to do with like the hard drive, like not installing updates properly or something like that. Like it can connect to the internet, but it's being really funky, and I don't know if it's just that the hard drive's going bad and I need to just replace it. Because I looked in to see what I have, and I have a fucking GameStop hard drive in there, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why it sucks. You can find OEM ones on eBay, but I'm just trying to see if there's a way I can do that without having to just swap out the hard drive entirely. Because I just think I've never done it. I don't know if it like messes with things internally or not. I don't know. Because I was trying to download. I bought 2 games from the 360 store because it's closing and it's having like a deep discount. I grabbed Need for Speed Most Wanted for like $2, nice. And I think it was Red Faction Gorilla for like $1.
That is a good game.
Yeah, they were both super cheap, and some people are saying, "Oh, they have like Dead Island for 75 cents." I'm like, I don't want to play Dead Island.
Dead Island 75 cents isn't even enough to convince me to play Dead Island.
Dead Island. So I bought those 2 games. I downloaded Most Wanted. It took a little while, 360. But then it said it didn't install it or something was weird. So I don't know. I'm maybe this is just a long a long-winded way of saying I have to replace the hard drive. I'm just hoping I don't have to do that. Not that it's like expensive or a pain in the ass to do. It's just I don't want to do it if I don't have to. But
Yeah.
we'll see. I'll give it I'll probably give it another week. Keep trying at it, and if it just keeps popping up, I'll just say fuck it. So because I don't want to lose all of my 360 games to play. So
No, I get that. Oh yeah. But
so what have you been playing, Bill? You been playing anything?
still playing the Mario Thousand Year Door remake. Still enjoying that. Such a good game. Like I can't
Very
stop
good game.
gushing about it. What else have I've been playing? I kind of got the Fire Emblem kick going on again, so I'm like kind of like toying around with doing another playthrough of Three Houses. I started it up. I got through the opening. I haven't picked a house yet because I'm debating what route I want to do this time.
Have you done all 3 yet?
I've done all
Or 4 technically?
5 technically, if you count the DLC. I've done all 5.
I never did the DLC.
It's interesting. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I've done all 5, so like this is just purely for fun.
Yeah.
I prefer Blue Lines. Blue Lines is still probably my favorite. But yeah, I'm kind of toying with that. Either that or I'll just boot up Awakening again and do another Awakening run because that's pretty quick.
Yeah, I need to do Awakening at some point. Yeah, I finished Doom Eternal, the base game, and all of its DLC. It's such a fun game, such a great ride. Just like the fast paced power fantasy you want it to be. Even though it's challenging, it never felt discouraging, and I was just hooked the whole way. And it took me a little over 30 hours, which was more than I expected out of Doom Eternal. But I just ended up having a really good time with it. And so then I jumped into Mafia 2, beat that already. It was a pretty quick game. Not a big fan of Mafia 2. There's some people who love this game, and I can kind of see why, but I think the story wasn't as good as the first game, and it just didn't click with me. I don't know. It just something about it felt just kind of whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just I don't know. It was a little too generic, I think, for my taste, I guess. But I wasn't gonna jump into Mafia 3 right away, but I was playing a little Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. I've done the first 3 missions of that. I'm not sure what to say yet. Like a 2D AC game. I don't know. I'll work through that trilogy hopefully before I get to Origins. But I said, fuck it. Let me try some Mafia 3.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a physical of it. Because I remember when Mafia 3 came out, a friend of mine was really into it. Like this was like his game, and he put a lot of hours into it. And I've been putting a little bit of time into it. I think I've gotten past the intro, so now I'm like kind of more into playing the game, and it's really fucking good. Like
I've heard 3 is like the one that people say is like the one to play.
I would say, I say all 3 are worth your time. They're worth like the remake of 1 I loved. I thought it was a really good take on like the classic mob story, and it has a couple of interesting twists and turns in there I liked. And the remake just did a good job of making it more modern, because if you try to play the original Mafia now,
Yeah,
not good. Mafia 2, see, I feel like I'm in the minority. Like I just didn't care for it. I don't know what it was, but the main character in 2 is in 3. So
gotcha.
It doesn't feel like a direct connection in terms of like, oh, like for story reasons. They're probably just like, oh, let's just throw him in there because why not? So, but yeah, like 3, I love the main character, Lincoln Clay. Like I'm already like really into him as a character. I'm engrossed in his story. I'm behind him 100%. The 60s New Orleans setting, I think, is a fantastic setting. So you get like, so the music is all fucking great because it's 1968. So you're getting all those like classic rock tunes and Motown tunes and all that within reason. There's no Beatles stuff, unfortunately, but you get the Stones, you get CCR, you get Little Richard, you get, other ones I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but you can look it up. It's a fantastic soundtrack. And the game is much more of like a straight up GTA style game. because
Yep.
the other two are a bit more linear and story driven, where here it is much more. It kind of almost turns into kind of factions, I think, because you have all these different factions that you're trying to deal with because you're like slowly taking over the town. It's a whole thing, but it's really good. I'm probably gonna stick with it and probably just play it all the way through.
Nice.
And I'll still do a little bit of AC Chronicles China because it's weird that Ezio is in this game. Because if you watched Assassin's Creed Embers, the main girl in China that you're playing as, she's in that because like she goes all the way to Italy to find Ezio and the whole thing. So when you're doing like the combat tutorials, that's him talking to you. It doesn't sound like him at all. Like they didn't get Roger Craig Smith for this, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
but it's I don't know. It's weird that it wasn't released exclusively for the Vita because it feels like a Vita game.
It probably. I think what happened was it came out for the Vita, and then they realized, fuck.
It was
the Vita.
later. No, it came out
Yeah.
later on the Vita. It was originally PS4, Xbox One.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. There was like those Chronicles games. There was like the trilogy of them that they did in like 2015 and then early 2016. Yeah, where they were just like, oh, let's make some like 2.5D games for some reason.
Right.
They were made by like a completely different studio and like they have some interesting like art direction. Like China has a pretty decent art direction and and I like the main character you play as, but I don't know, the gameplay, I don't know, moving Assassin's Creed into 2D, I don't know, it doesn't work as well as you think it should.
It's kind of like that Batman Arkham Blackgate game that was like the 2D
A
side
little bit.
one.
A little bit. I could see that connection, but I'll stick with it. It's only I think it only has like 12 missions, and I'm already on the 4th one, so I'll stick with it.
Oh, I just thought of this. I should mention I have been playing a lot of N64 lately. It may or may not be for a GNC episode with a certain individual.
It's not me.
All I'll say is
if I show up, it would just incite arguments.
Well, you'll have one defender, but that being said, we are making progress. I'll leave it at that. But I bring it up because we played a game called Test Drive Overdrive. No, not Test Drive. Top Gear Overdrive. Because there's the Top Gear game series that has nothing to do with Top Gear the show, but it's that. But
it's crazy. Forza Horizon 4, I'm still playing a little bit of that. It has a whole series of missions based on Top Gear, like the show. But I think the game came out after all of the Jeremy Clarkson stuff happened. So the presenter is a completely different guy that I'm like, I don't recognize this man. Which is a little bit of a shame. Clarkson is in some of the, I think he's in Motorsport 3 and 4. I think his voice appears in there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Top Gear is a show that kind of went to shit after they fired the host, which, I mean,
I get why they fired him, though.
I get why they did, but at the same time, he was always like that. So, I mean,
I think it was he took it too far.
Yeah, I mean, they paid the price because the show basically kind of died despite going on. No one cared after they got rid of them.
Though, to be fair, the show that they did that was sort of them continuing it called The Grand Tour, nobody really watched that either.
No, well, from what I read is like it was really good at the start, and then people realized they don't have the budget to like keep it up.
Yeah, I watched a bit of it. Like you have to really like the bits where it's just the three of them just like throwing jokes at each other. When really my favorite episodes of Top Gear in that era were the location episodes where they just went to a random area and just fucked around. Like the one where they go to the US, incredible. Like that is an all-time like TV episode. That's like an all-time great TV episode. The one they go to India is great.
Oh yeah. My favorite is when they have to make stretch limos in London and they're all fucking disasters.
Like that stuff is great. And yeah, they had the BBC budget to pull that off, whereas, Amazon's not giving them that stuff. We should play the Grand Tour game one of these days.
Yeah.
We should. As like a special like we should do like a sub series of this called like Bill's Broom Broom games, where we just talk about like a random ass racing game.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, because you like racing games and you've been getting me into them. You fucking piece of shit. So
it's
no,
amazing
it's
how
okay.
like
I like racing
fun.
games.
It's just funny how like there's so many of them. They're all fucking so weird and different.
Yeah,
But
maybe we should, listeners. Should we do a side series where we talk about fucking broom broom games? Please let us know.
I was gonna say though, just before we get into our actual topic, that Top Gear Overdrive game,
Yes,
solid
please.
solid 3D racer, like decent controls, fun tracks, like everything. The reason I bring it up is I shared this in the Superpod network, and I think I shared it in the GNC server as well. We were going through the car select screen, and go during a thing, it was like, okay, these are pretty normal. Like you got your standard quote unquote factory cars. Like they basically looked like the cars, but they didn't have branding. But we're getting all the way through, and like it's all decent cars, like Hummers, like stuff, Jeeps, like a Volkswagen Beetle. And then we get towards the end, and one of the cars is just a fucking hot dog. And the wheels,
It's the Wienermobile, the
the
Oscar
wheel,
Mayer Wienermobile.
the wheels were pickles. It was great.
That's
But
SpongeBob probably stole that.
the best part was like Alex had already picked her car. I spoiled who the person. It's obvious at this point. And I get to that. I'm like, well, I know what I'm playing as now. It was fucking uncontrollable because they maxed its speed for no reason.
I mean, why wouldn't you though? That's the thing.
Oh,
Why
but the
wouldn't you
best
do
part
that?
was I picked it right there. I didn't keep scrolling. There was also you could play as the N64 logo, which was great,
Why? Sure, why not?
and a taco. So
Taco Bell. Run
what
to
I
the
did,
board. Run to the border for a little fourth meal. Do they still say fourth meal? They don't say fourth meal anymore.
I don't think so.
I
What
remember now. I feel old as shit because I say fourth meal.
Yeah. See, I'm all for racing games doing wacky shit like that, but like at the same time, it was so random. Like you're just scrolling through all these realistic cars, and then just three of them at the end are like jokes, and I'm like, this is hilarious. But I
But that's
kind
kind of what's amazing about racing games is that, or at least the old ones, like you can get away with doing that kooky stuff. Whereas it feels like now they don't do that anymore. They're all
they
either
don't.
like ultra realistic or they're just like kart racers. You know, you're either Mario Kart or you're Forza.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there is Cruisin' Blast, but that was like an arcade port. So,
yeah, I had to bring that up though because the hot dog car is one of the funniest things I've experienced recently.
In Cruisin' Blast, can't you play as like a just a giant T-Rex?
I think so.
And like he's like racing like super fast, but his feet are just like going like really slow. I think so. I didn't play Cruisin' Blast. Maybe I should play Cruisin' Blast. Has a great theme song.
It really does. But speaking of games, yeah, I don't know how to transition this.
Vehicle games.
Yeah, kind of. We're playing for this episode. We're going to be talking about Starblade.
Yes, a blade of stars. What's so funny is the advertising flyer for this on Wikipedia. Its a slogan is "Make space for Starblade." It's like it's not Space Blade. It makes space for Space Blade. Anyways,
yeah, this was an interesting one. I think this one literally got mentioned in a previous episode, and I bought it the second you had brought it up because
it's because I'm pretty sure I bought this in a bundle with Alone in the Dark.
Yes.
And Alone in the Dark, it had like a makeshift cover. Like somebody put like some like goopy horror font on the front of it, which I thought was cute. And then this was here, and I was like, I don't know this game at all. And so I mentioned we should play it at some time, and we should, and now we have. It's playing in the background. It's like I'm at an arcade.
And I remember because the main reason why this one stuck out was those guys right there.
Yeah, the Klonoa people made this.
The American hating Tail Studio. Yes. I'm not bitter.
You're such a bitter little shit.
I know.
Watch. Like in the next week, they'll announce the Tales of the Abyss remake, and you'll probably lose your mind.
They're about to announce, and then they're gonna cancel it and cite this podcast as the reason why they didn't do it.
If they did that, I would love that actually. They should name check me if they do that.
Yeah. We just want to make this one Tales fan's day even worse.
But we're gonna make the other guy on the podcast happy, so it gives him a reason to never play these games.
Yeah.
Even though I know I should, I will. Shut up. Shut up. Anyways,
Sorry.
go ahead.
You can tell me and Chris in person. We know we're the only fans of the series.
I mean, I like what I played. It's
I know.
just RPGs are. It's a lot for me, man.
I will say the Tales series is a lot of RPG, and they're
Yeah.
not the easiest RPGs to get into.
Eventually, I'll just sit down and play Vesperia, and we'll be fine. Okay.
Mm.
Who knows? Maybe with my new job, I will allow myself to play more games. Who knows? But we'll find out.
So, getting into Starblade now, this game it's older than I thought. This game was originally released in 1991 in Japan, originally for the arcades.
I mean, look at the game footage, viewers. This is such clearly an arcade game.
Interestingly enough, it doesn't give a date for when the 3DO version came out, which leads me to believe this was a pretty immediate port. Maybe.
Well, it doesn't give a date, say, if you look online, but if you look on the case,
it says 94.
Say 94.
Okay, that would make more sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 3DO 93. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense, actually. 94. Mm-hmm. So it is an arcade rail shooter by, as we said, Namco. And this game is interesting. It is it's compared heavily to games like Star Fox, Panzer Dragoon, Rez. I don't see the Star Fox comparison that much.
I don't make the Star Fox comparison. I mean, Star Fox is kind of a rail shooter, but it's in a different fashion. Panzer Dragoon is closer to Star Fox, I think, than Starblade.
Yeah, even
and both of those are console experiences. Even though they feel like arcade games, they were made for the home, right? So those comparisons I've never understood. Rez, I don't think I've ever played Rez. I believe this is the game, correct me if I'm wrong, that when it got the PS2 port, they released an accessory with it called the Trance Vibrator, which is essentially a thing that just vibrates. And apparently it's supposed to react to like when you're playing the game, but they forgot who their demographic was.
So the goal for a little Rez tangent here, the intention was you were supposed to sit on it, haha, funny, and it would vibrate along with the game, because Rez is a very visually stimulating game, and it's also
it looks awesome.
Oh yeah, it's a very good game. So first off, they called it the Trans Vibrator, which was already off to a bad start, but yeah, it was supposed to be a thing. It was supposed to enhance the entire game's experience, but of course, gamers are a group of degenerates, and they immediately took it the other way.
Exactly. There may have been a couple ladies who had a great time with this game. Just saying, maybe it's not impossible.
I think Screw Attack, when they did their top 10 video game accessories, they listed the Trans Vibrator at number 1 because it was it was like it's the perfect
for that
game.
Random ass girl that they found.
Yeah, they were like, look, it's the perfect game. You can play it with your partner, and you can both have a great time. And I was just like, damn, the internet was edgy back in the day.
Yeah, but we don't talk about Craig anymore. Anyway. But like they make those comparisons, but I feel like those aren't accurate, because when I see this game, there was one game that immediately came to mind. Maybe you'd agree with me on this, and that is the Star Wars arcade game.
Yeah, honestly,
it's so much closer to that. I mean, yeah, sure, the original was like the vector graphics version of it, which I have played before. I think it was a bonus on one of the Rogue Squadron games, or even say the 32X version of the Star Wars arcade, which definitely like cleaned up the game and all that. It's something closer, I think, to that. Now I don't know why, but when I saw this game and I was playing this game, there was one person I was thinking of in our network, and that is for some reason Dre from Fine Time. I haven't checked with Dre, but I need to. Maybe he's listening. Dre, did you play Starblade in the arcade because for some reason, when I looked at this game and saw it as an arcade game, for some reason I went, "Oh, Dre's probably played this." I don't know why. So please, Dre, let me know. But yeah, it's a 3D arcade rail shooter that when it came out, I think the whole idea was, oh, look at polygons. Polygons exist and you can shoot them. Isn't that cool, dudes? Right?
Which at the
Um,
time it probably was.
I'm sure. And I imagine as an arcade experience, it was probably really cool because it uses one of the, I guess they call them the yoke sticks, but they're kind of like the weird half steering wheel type
It's
type
supposed to
ones.
simulate like you're in a jet fighter, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. And seeing pictures of the arcade cabinet, like it looks like it's a cool arcade experience.
Mm.
Because that's really what enhances these sort of like rail shooters, because playing them on a console with a controller is for the most part kind of lame. But when you say are like sitting in this like cool ass cockpit with all these like decals and you grab the stick and there's like pedals and shit, like that's what makes it fun,
Yeah.
right?
Like the way I was thinking about it was with the whole Star Fox comparisons and stuff. This game is like a rail shooter in the literal sense where you are legit on a rail and just controlling a reticle. Star Fox you're technically on a rail, but you can also control the ship. So it's not
Yes.
nearly it's a lot more you're in control more than say with this game where it's literally on a rail, you're just controlling the reticle. It's honestly kind of like a light gun shooter in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see the light gun comparison. It wouldn't work as say like a light gun game, and I sent you a picture of the arcade cab I found, like a little bit more of a detailed look to it. Like that's kind of inviting looking, right? Um yeah, I could see the light gun comparisons.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see that
I
being eye-catching right away.
and I don't know if this version of the game has light gun support, because I mean the 3DO does have some light guns, but they're kind of hard to find, I think.
Yeah, I see them every now and then. They're not exactly cheap.
Yeah, and I don't know if this game would even support that, because playing this game with a 3DO D-pad, I didn't find to be a very pleasant experience.
No,
But to
unfortunately
be
not.
fair, a lot of these kind of games don't translate to consoles very well, anyways.
Yeah,
Um, it, unless you have an analog stick. Like if you have like an analog stick and you adjust the sensitivity just right, you can have some pretty good
yeah.
reflexes to sort of make up for it. But
Like,
here, like the D-pad, it moves faster than you'd think, but it is still kind of slow. And I was
yeah,
able to get decently far. The game's I think only what, like 30, 35 minutes. And
yeah. It's not super long.
I got a good chunk of the way through it, but after like one or maybe two plays, I ran out of quarters. and I
Essentially,
just and
essentially,
I moved on to like the NBA Jam cab.
yeah. Um, yeah. It's interesting, like that you bring up the D-pad because the game is literally you press one button and you move it with the D-pad. It's a very simple and easy game to pick up.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the D-pad, yeah, it's weirdly well programmed, but also just kind of unfortunately not exactly the funnest thing ever. Just because the only rail shooter I can think of that played well on a D-pad was like Panzer Dragoon, but it was designed around that.
Yeah, or yeah, that game kind of gets away with it, and it has like the really good lock-on missile system as well.
Yeah,
So you don't have to be super accurate. You just like hold on to the lock-on, and then put your reticule around the enemy, and then the game does kind of the rest of the work for you. And so the game becomes not so much timing your shots accurately, but being able to get enough shots off, and being able to do some dodging when you can. Panzer
yeah.
Dragoon, God, Panzer Dragoon, what a fucking good game that is.
Mm. So I will say now, there isn't like gameplay wise, there's not much to say about Starblade. It is the most rail shooter you'll ever play. Um, Graphically though, the 3DO version is kind of interesting because the original game was very Star Fox esque, like flat textures, not a whole lot of detail, solid polygons everywhere. The 3DO version adds this bonus, like fully textured mode, which
Yeah,
I found really interesting, mostly because
it gives it texture, gives it PS1 style textures.
it looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like
It
for a
looks
game,
it looks better in the arcade version. I can say
yeah.
that.
Um, for the time, it looks pretty solid. And To me, the thing that impressed me the most with this game was this game runs exceptionally good.
Oh yeah, like no, I didn't notice any like frame drops or any slowdown or anything like that. It seemed to flow pretty well, almost like just like a well done movie on the 3DO, kind of, but in full
Because
screen.
did you play textured or original first?
I tried both.
So I played the original first, and it played so well. I was actually expecting the textured version to be slower, but no, they both run identical speed. Like they literally, the only difference between the two is like, do you want slightly better looking or older looking?
Basically, but the new textured version I think looks really solid.
Hmm. No, it really does. Like you can see a bit of it in the background there on Thrax screen, but for the video watchers, it
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the version it's using. So
hmm, it amazed me. Like there's no slowdown at all. Frame rate is really solid. Like honestly, the only downside to this game is it's just hard as fuck because it's not designed well for a console.
yeah, because I think not to get too technical, but I have a sense that the background is just essentially like a movie file that's playing, and then say all the assets you can interact with are kind of separated from it. So it's probably taking less processing power from the 3DO because you can't fully interact with the world, but the game will just place, say, the certain ships when they need to come in or certain missiles. So it probably allows the game to run much more smoothly. That's just me guessing.
I also think part of it is so the 3DO, not the most powerful system ever. We've kind of been over that in the past, but it had solid enough hardware that was pretty programmer friendly, and I have a feeling a developer like Namco, who just at the time knew what the fuck they were doing, probably was able to take it and just optimize it properly to into this. Is my guess.
Yeah, that would be my guess. And I feel like the only reason they did this was it was just like, hey, this arcade game, people liked it at the time. And I think it did pretty decently well. So they're like, hey, let's just adapt it to the home console and see if people enjoy it.
Yeah,
Um,
because there is actually a Sega CD port as well, which I am curious about because I highly doubt it's as visually
it
appealing.
My guess is it probably cuts this screen down by like a third and runs at half the frame rate.
Probably. Because the only other version was the PlayStation version, which was apparently a remake from the ground up. So I'm actually kind of curious to try that one out just to see how different it is.
My guess is it's probably not that much different, but who knows?
Hmm. If I ever see it, I might pick it up.
Oh, I'm sure it's not an expensive game by any means.
Hmm.
Oh, and I checked with Dre. He did play this game. I
Oh, nice.
knew it. I knew it. This just screamed Dre to me.
Nice. Yeah, other than that though, there's really not a whole lot to say. It seems to be like basically an arcade perfect port, as
I would
perfect
say so.
as perfect as you can get on a console.
Yeah. I mean, if it had, say, like a flight stick or like light gun support or something like that, it would definitely help make this more playable. But
Hmm.
again, it's hard to justify getting one of these for your home console at a time when, you probably couldn't afford that many games for your system anyways, especially a system as expensive as this guy, then
Yeah.
being like, oh, let me get a version of this arcade game. And it's like, well, it's kind of cool, but after maybe 2 hours, you probably get sick of it, and then
Yeah.
you're like, well, what do I play next?
Yeah, this one's a tough one to kind of nail down my opinion on it reception wise. Which before we get into must play, okay, stay away, I did want to mention. I did look through the manual, by the way. There's said nothing about light gun in here. Um,
Okay, is there a story in this game at all, or is it just kind
uh,
of like a fluffy
it
nothing?
it seemed like there was a very minor story, like that opening cutscene about the red star or red eye, whatever,
Yeah,
going on.
our, our co-pilot's got pink eye. Quick, run to the CVS to get some medicine for him.
Um, so reception wise, I believe so for the arcade version, I should say, because that's the one that really matters. This game was
Apparently, that's your ship.
Oh,
That's an interesting kind of Japanese like helmet. That's what it looks like to me.
that looks like a portion of a Gundam or something.
Yeah, yeah, or like Jet Jaguar.
um, so the game was incredibly successful in the arcades. Like it was well received and did very well in arcades. It was a quarter. It was definitely a quarter gobbler, as they say.
Oh yeah, because like most arcade games, this game is difficult.
Yeah, and it's also kind of addicting. Like especially in that arcade sense where like you're like one more, just one more. Come on, one more.
Yeah, there's no
Do it.
option to like artificially add quarters into here.
No, you get
Um,
like I think you get like 5 tries and that's it.
yeah, which is kind of lame, but you know the whole simulating additional credits. I don't think that showed up on like say console arcade ports until a couple years later.
Yeah, not till like I think we got true perfect ports.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, as for the console versions, they were well received, but a lot of them were kind of a lot of them received a lot of complaints for not really adding anything compared to the arcade, aside from like the updated graphics, which are nice, but they really don't. They're not enough to justify probably the $50 price tag this game cost at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Now, keep going.
Other than that, I was gonna. It's funny to me that like certain like next generation hated the 3DO. I swear because like they gave it 2 out of 5 stars, which I'm like, okay, sure.
Honestly, that's
Um,
probably what I'd give it. I'd be like, yeah, it's a nice port, but once you make this a home console game, you're gonna kind of judge it on a different basis than you would
yeah,
an arcade game.
it's just I laugh because next generation seems to always give the 3DO reviews bad reviews, but
They just
um,
didn't like it, man.
Famatsu didn't even review the 3DO version, so um,
That's fine. That's fine.
CD Player gave it a 6 out of 10 on both PlayStation and 3DO.
Love that. Love that. So my question with this game is that it's a Namco made game where you're in a plane shooting shit, right? Do you think potentially the team that worked on this, or a couple guys who worked on this, maybe went on to make Ace Combat?
It is possible. Um,
They're
it
very different games, but it just wouldn't surprise me if, say, some of the Starblade devs like the idea of making a flying game, but probably recognize that, oh, when it comes to the home console, it needs to be something a little bit more in depth. So they went and made what became the Ace Combat series.
Yeah. I'm looking through. It doesn't really say much on what the team did after, but it wouldn't surprise me, which is really interesting too, because if some of this team did go on to make Ace Combat in a roundabout way, that a lot of those team members later went on to make Star Fox Assault.
Mm-hmm.
Because Star Fox Assault, I believe, used a lot of the Ace Combat 2 team,
I think so. Yeah.
which makes sense considering when you play Star Fox Assault, it is a very Ace Combat-ish kind of feeling game.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ace Combat started as, I think it was Air Combat, right?
Only in America, the original was Ace Combat in Japan.
Well, there's an
Um,
arcade game Namco made called Air Combat, which came out in
true.
like before the PS1 version. And who knows, maybe the Starblade team, maybe that's what they made right after this was that arcade Air Combat game. Like that makes because that came out in 93 and the Starblade came out in 91. So it's very possible that a lot of those guys probably crossed over into that. Maybe the home console version probably is a different story, but
I need to like
um,
deep dive on this now and find out because I love Ace Combat.
yeah, I don't know. It's just in my head. It's like that seems similar. And apparently they were gonna make a sequel to Starblade. I
They
think
were.
back in like the early 2000s when some Japanese companies were still making arcade games, but the arcades were just kind of not really there anymore. It was called Starblade Operation Blue Planet, and that was going to be released on the arcades at the time, but it got canceled unfortunately because I guess they realized that maybe this time isn't really worth doing because I guess the board it was going to run on would have been similar to a PS2, which I'm
Mm,
thinking then why not just make it for PS2? Like this is the time where it's like that's the most popular system, this would have been an easy, maybe like $20-$30 game to just put out there and see if people like it. But
Yeah, unfortunately, it was probably a budgeting thing, in all honesties, which
yeah, and maybe they're like,
shocked.
we have the Ace Combat games. We don't need another flying series.
Yeah, and especially because Ace Combat had taken off by that point.
Oh yeah. Because because by the PS2 they're on what, Ace Combat 4, I think.
So 1, 2, and 3 were PS1, and PS2 had 4, 5, and 0. Yeah.
Where's
6 was
6?
that was on 360.
Okay, I do
And then
have Ace Combat 7
7's
because
really good.
that goes on sale all the time. Like I think I bought it for like $8. I still haven't played it yet, but I hear it's a good game, especially for somebody like me who hasn't played any of these games. Like it's probably not a bad spot to get in.
So the Ace Combat series is really funny because they actually have storylines and like they're kind of in depth in a way.
Yeah. Don't they straight up have like anime storylines, but it's all about flying planes and shit?
So the main series games literally they take place in their own fictional world of weird, known as the world that Ace Combat takes place in is literally called Strange Real.
I love that.
It is great. What's funny is though they later tried to do a more realistic approach to Ace Combat. I think it was called Ace Combat Combat Horizon, which takes place in the real world, and it like they're good games, but they just don't have that same charm because it's like this is real, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Did you know that literally last week Ace Combat 7 got a Switch port?
Mm-hmm.
Last
I saw
week,
that. I saw that. I was
did
like,
not,
cool.
I did not know that, and I'm surprised they didn't throw that, say, in the direct. It's just like, Ace Combat's coming to Switch. Like that could have been an easy, like little like ad for it. And I've been like, cool. I should play that on my Xbox.
Really funny is I think that is the first main series Ace Combat game to come out on a Nintendo console.
Yeah, because there's an Ace Combat on GBA.
There's Ace Combat Advance, which is
fine.
It's debatably main series. There was also the one on 3DS, which is a remake of 2, which I have to track down.
Is 2 the one everyone likes?
2 or 4. 4 is very high regarded as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen like 4 Shattered Skies. I've seen that cover a million times.
That was
I was always kind of like not into buying flying games for some reason. I don't know why. Like I love the Rogue Squadron games. I'm surprised I never gave these a shot.
Ace Combat's a weird one because the covers are like they are so like realistic that like
they look like Top Gun. That's what they look like.
Yeah, like they're kind of unassuming, but then you play them and you're like, these are weird. And I kind of love it.
Yeah. Maybe I need to give Ace Combat 7 a try.
So must play, okay, stay away. I'm torn on because I don't want to say it's a must play because realistically, if you're going to play this game, you should play the arcade version.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say stay away.
Download it on MAME. I'm curious to how this would play on MAME.
I'm gonna say okay, but with the caveat that you should probably play the arcade version.
You know what? I will agree. I wasn't sure what to make of this at all, but the way you said it, honestly, that feels fine.
Because calling it a stay away just doesn't feel right. Like, because it's not.
It feels a little
game.
Unfair. Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunately not the right game for 3DO.
Yeah.
So
it's a game that I wonder if the PS1 version has a flight stick, like a flight stick control option for it or not. Because I really feel like this game if it had that, it would be a big help.
Or even just like the analog stick, making it a little bit easier to move around.
Yeah. Well, this came out, I think, pre-DualShock, so I don't know.
Fair. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Yeah, other than that though, nothing. Starblade's one of those just unfortunate games that's like it's fine, but there's just not a lot to say about it.
The cover's cool.
Yeah, it's got a fun cover.
Yeah, it looks like a sci-fi novel from the 80s.
Actually, looking at it, the ship on the cover, that's the same ship in the manual. It just from behind it looks a lot more appealing than from the front. Oh yeah, you can see it on the back
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. But it doesn't look as cool as say the ships in Wing Commander.
Oh no, not at all.
It's no Wing Commander. I can say that it's no Wing Commander.
True. So we haven't we kind of toyed around with what to do for our next episode. I know you said you wanted to talk about Captain Quasar.
Do you have it?
I don't have it, but I'm willing to emulate it.
Let's finally talk Captain Quasar.
Okay.
I'm ready to talk about this game, man.
All right. Yeah, so we'll talk about Captain Quasar, one of the most eye-catching 3DO games, I'd say.
Or should we talk to Aaron to see if he's ready to do Tripped? Because I feel like Captain Quasar, I don't want to make that a short week game. You know?
True. Yeah, let's reach out to Aaron and see if he's down. And if not, we'll think of something.
Yeah.
I'll play Captain Quasar regardless and just have it.
Yeah. I just don't want it to be like it's a short week kind of thing, you know?
True, because this episode's going to come out pretty late, and then the next one is like in like 4 days. So
yeah, and most of those days I'm working.
Fair. Yeah. So let's talk to Aaron about Tripped, and if not, then we'll figure something out.
Sounds good to me.
All right, but yeah. So, anyways, guys, thanks for joining us on 3DO. You can find the 3DO experience on all the major podcasting platforms, and you can check us out over at the Superpod Network, an awesome group of podcasters featuring the likes of, let's see if I can get them all this time, Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, I think that's the name.
You got it.
Remember 64, The Elder Trolls, Friday Night Gamecast, Fine Time, Gaming Together, Bar Silence, and then the GNC shows.
A novel console as well.
Oh, damn. Chris, post an episode so I can remember your show, damn it.
He keeps blaming Carradine, and it's like, don't blame her.
I know. God damn it. I always forget one. But yeah, check us out over there. We got a whole bunch of blogs and stuff, video content. We're trying to do more group events in the future. Hopefully that'll we'll get more of those in the future. And other than that, you can find all of our links at linktree/thebarbarouxgames. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Bye-bye.